welcome back to Breaking Black Podcast. I am your girl, Fancy Arlee, and this is my boo, Tina G. I don't know if this resonates with some of y'all, but we are here to talk about secret relationships, affairs, and those side pieces. So, Miss Tina, have you or have you ever been in any type of entanglement or have dated someone who has represented themselves as the single, but you later found out was not the single? Or has that ever been you, my girl?
Like most women, I'm sure, unfortunately, that has definitely been me. I have found myself in a space where somebody really falsely represented their status to me when we initially met. And the interesting thing about sometimes being thrown into spaces like this is you can actually know people sometimes, like in other capacities, but maybe you never dated them. Like maybe you've been social media friends, or if you've seen them out in your circle groups or things of that nature, and maybe you haven't always gotten a revelation of a person's life. And so at one particular time, there was this gentleman that I knew. He wasn't a stranger to me, but I had never known him to be in a relationship. And we started dating after we met through a mutual friend. And basically, the way that the person represented themselves was just completely unlike the situation that they were in. They were in an entire relationship. They were actually in a space where they weren't single at all. I know sometimes people, they'll be on a break, or they might take a little bit of time away from their partner. That was not this. This person was not single and represented himself as being available. And we started dating and we started going out in public, mind you. We're out at restaurants. We're going to karaoke spots. I mean, we're out. And yes, girl, we are out in the public eye. Okay. I'm on social media with this person, and it's just like, nowhere did I ever think that I was going to be caught up in a situation where I was going to be dealing with somebody else's man, child. I just was. So it's really disappointing to me. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and she had met a gentleman, and he had basically told her that, he was in a relationship, and kind of asked her how she felt about just kind of, being on the side and dealing with it or whatever. And the conversation I had with her is that, he gave her the space to choose for herself. He told her the truth, and that allowed for her to decide whether she wanted to be a part of, like you said, this entanglement. But for me, I didn't feel that way. I was completely blindsided. I saw it as a complete waste of my time, because I'm investing my time, I'm investing my energy, and I'm bringing you into my spaces. And then to come to find out that, you are not available to me was just a very devastational type of feeling. And so I just do not appreciate people who come into relationships and they're just not honest about their status. Come into the relationship, be honest about your status, and let the other person decide if they want to pay or play. You know what I mean? So how do you feel about that?
Listen, same. It to me, it's like it's a lot harder for people to be honest than it is to lie. It's just like, for what? You know what I mean? For one, I think not even just as a married woman, but just as a human being, right? Like, I don't think that in good faith or good conscience, I could just be like, oh, yeah, let me go a little bit. First of all, you know how much energy that takes? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen people juggling, and it's just like, that is too much. You get what I'm saying? And it's just like, I'm like, just be honest, because like you said, you don't know if I like it or not. I might like it. You know what I mean? Like SZA said, I take the weekend. You don't know. You know what I mean? Like, give me that option. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all like options, right? So we're not married, right? We're dating. We're getting to know one another. So I think that just being honest and telling me what you're into, I might be into it too. You might not be the only person that I'm seeing, right? We're grown. We're not married or whatever. But if you're married I think that that boils down to communication, because some might find that maybe that might segue into more of a polygamous type of situation. And I don't fault those things. That's not for me and my family dynamic, but I find those type of relationships intriguing. And in a lot of the situations, if it's not just purely sexual, I see why, and not even just necessarily the religious reasons, but I see why a lot of people do go that way, for the reason of not cheating, being more open, and then also creating that village. So I get it, and I think it's very interesting. But if you're in a relationship, I don't think that it's fair for you to go have your fun, because guess what? If the other person did it to you, they always say the shoe on the other foot, it ain't too cool. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's dope. And then we kind of came out of an era of, it kind of fizzled out. And I even saw commercials where people were talking about side chicks and using that as like something cool. That's not cool, sis. That's not cute. And I wouldn't want to be, to me, honestly, as a friend, I wouldn't want to be the type of girl to promote that type of behavior. And even my friend, if I see my friend is like that, I feel like we solid enough to where I can check you on it. Sis, that's not cool. Bruh, that's not cool. So when I see that kind of stuff, I just laugh. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is different, but at the same time, what in you gives you the right to take that option away from somebody? Because that's selfish. You think they're going to leave or whatever. And if they do, so what, right? You still have your main one. So it wouldn't be so bad if you lost your side one, right? And you could just get another one. But just on a serious note, just recently here in my town, we a young lady, may she rest in peace, went to what she thought her boyfriend, right? She went to his house to express that she was having their child. And and she's in her early 20s, and she went there to share that news, and to find out she, I guess, was met with another woman, and she lost her life. And this was just last month. And so, just on a serious note, and we joke about side chicks and things of that nature, but had that young man been honest, that would have give both of those young ladies an option. And then the young lady who actually killed her, that would have given her a way to navigate what she was feeling, and it wouldn't have ended in a young mother leaving her children behind, right? So I think that, and not even to take it to a darker place, but we have to take those things in consideration when we're playing with people's feelings and playing with people's emotions, because those kind of things can just flip a switch in someone that they didn't know that they had. So playing with someone like that, I think that's dangerous work. You know what I mean? So, but just what about you as like a friend? If you saw your friend, your homegirl, your homeboy who was really gloating and brought a side chick around, or a side dude, a side piece around, how would you react to that? Do you think that that's something that you'd be like, oh, let me just mind my business? Or would that something that you would kind of stand on and kind of put your 2 cents in? And if so, how do you think that you would approach something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like my moral compass is, it's always at work. I like to say it's always at work. So I feel like, although it's not technically my business, I do think I'm the type of person that just kind of leads with with my moral values. And I feel like I have been in, situations in friendships with people where I've seen them move, and I'm like, you sure you want to make this move? Are you sure that this is something that you want to do? Are you thinking about the ramifications of what can happen? Because you're right. We see stories all the time where, things like that turn tragic because there's a certain level of deception there. Someone's crossing the boundaries, or a person becomes infuriated, being thrust into, maybe some relational situation that they don't want to be a part of. And now they're angry, which can become spiteful. And ultimately, there are people that have been harmed and even lost their life because of those types of things, right? The interesting thing about your question, though, is that I've had those types of conversations with friends of mine who I know very well, and friends of mine who I trust and who trust me. But the interesting thing about that is most of the conversations always result the same, because the reality of it, I think, is that if a person doesn't want to acknowledge their wrongs and what they're doing, they're definitely not going to accept that acknowledgement coming from someone else, right? Because in order for us to really receive the truth, we have to be ready to recognize that. And if we don't want to recognize that in ourselves, it's difficult when somebody else comes along and points that out. So what I've discovered in my friendships is, as I've kind of navigated through that and told my friends what I thought about some of their behaviors and even some of the intentions why they might want to be disruptive in another person's relationship, or why they might want to be a side piece in somebody's relationship and how destructive that can be, I'm met with pushback and frustration, and essentially kind of being put in a space where, the thought is I should kind of mind my business, and they're grown and they can make whatever decisions that they find are best for them. And ultimately, I respect, but I don't respect it. If you get what I mean. I mean, I can respect your decision without thinking that that's something that, doesn't necessarily cross, the boundaries that I feel you should be crossing. I try not to overstep, but I do offer advice. And I try to tell my friends what I think might be the right, or, the righteous thing to do in those types of situations. But ultimately that person, is going to decide for themselves, what they feel is right for them in those types of situations. And a lot of times I think people just get caught up in attraction, desire, passion, and they let that kind of dictate the decisions that they're going to make. With you being married, do you find that amongst, your married friends versus your single friends, if there's kind of a disparity between, people having those secret relationships or affairs, or do you feel like it doesn't matter whether a person's married or they're single? These are occurrences that can happen and anybody can kind of find themselves in these kinds of predicaments.
Absolutely. Because you know why? We're human, right? So I think that, and this is something that me and my wife have talked about, because I think even in the dating space, right, when you enter into somewhat of an agreement, even though you're not married on paper, you still let people know what it is that you're looking for, what your deal breakers are, and things of that nature, right? So when you kind of enter into that verbal or non-verbal agreement, you kind of have it set in your mind, okay, this is what I will deal with and what I won't deal with. So being that person knows that, it's up to them, once you trusted them with that information, what they'll do with it. So if you are married, I feel as though, if I were to be in a space where I put myself in a position where I was tempted or things of that nature, for whatever reason it would be, because I am human, right? Then I feel like that's something that I could take to my wife and feel safe enough to talk to her about and say, hey, this is kind of going on. I'm kind of feeling this way. Don't really know why, or maybe I do know why. How does that make you feel, right? Some people aren't able to have those safe conversations with their partner. So they feel like if there's a void that's not being filled, whether that's emotional or whether their needs are not being fulfilled sexually or emotionally or even physically being there, and they feel the need to step out, but they don't feel safe in sharing that with their partner, then it almost, I guess that's the word, they call it a sticky link, you know what I'm saying? Then it's just, you know what I'm saying? That in itself is spicy. That in itself is fun. So when you're doing that and you're married, first of all, that's horrible. Like, I'm not saying you're a horrible person, because you're human, but at the same time, that's not a good look. You know what I mean? So, because again, going back to options, did you give your spouse that option to do that as well? Because if that's something that you eventually was like, you know what, I'm kind of feeling some type of way, I still want to stay married, but hey, have you ever thought about maybe if we kind of, played around? Let somebody know, because you know what I'm saying? That's a dirty game that you're playing. You know what I'm saying? So that little sneaky link to think that, especially the ones that, you're going to leave your spouse. You're going to, no, they're not. No, they're not. Even if they're in the most miserable marriage of all, and I've seen it happen, they're not going anywhere. They're not gonna go, you know what I mean? Because guess what? There's nothing that you're doing that spectacular for them to leave, because you've already let them know. You've already created a contract in itself to where I can deal with the fact that you're married. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I got a one up on her. I'm this, I'm that. But you really don't, though, sis. You really don't have that one up on their spouse, because you are settling at its finest. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, if you're married and you're doing that, that's that's a dirty game. But at the same time, if you're the side piece, that's even a dirtier game, because you really think you got a stronghold on somebody when at the end of the day they are not even that good thing. They're not. They're not. They're not. They're not. So, like I said, it's about communication. If you feel in some type of way, I'd rather my wife tell me, because can we fix it? If not, then hey, go ahead. I might even say, go ahead, see if it's greener. I know it's not greener, you know what I'm saying? Not to my own heart, but I feel safe enough to say that I don't think my wife would even do that to me. You get what I'm saying? Even if I did give her
Right.
permission. And that's not being cocky, that's not being arrogant, because I know that that's the space that we in. We've already done the work. You get what I'm saying? I've been married before. I've already done the work. You get what I'm saying? So I'm solid. And I feel like I can genuinely say that. And if she did that, baby, that'd be the shock of my life. Because I just don't think that she would do that. And I know I wouldn't do that to her. I feel like I could honestly, it would hurt, but I feel like I could say something to her before it even got to that point. And I think that, of course, she would be hurt, but I think that would be something that we'd be able to talk through, because already what we built. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just think it's all dirty work.
And I think you made a great point. I think having great communication with your partner or your spouse is probably one of the most key components to, having a healthy relationship. I think ultimately, if you're able to communicate your desires, you're able to communicate any, misgivings or any thoughts that you may have about, particular situations, even if it's just a thought, maybe there's not even an intention and act, but it's just a thought, something that you want to talk about just to clear the space, to clear your conscience and have a conversation. And even maybe get some, be in a space where you can be reaffirmed by your partner, because a lot of times when you have those types of open communications with your partner will oftentimes offer solutions that are very reaffirming within the relationship. And I think another part of that conversation is respecting boundaries, because every relationship looks different, whether a person is married or not. Every partnership, every relationship looks different. And I think that's the beautiful thing about relationships, is you get to decide with your partner what works for the two of you, or the three of you or more, if that's what you're into. But you get to decide what works for you. And I think ultimately, if you and your partner or spouse come up with a compromise as to what's considered, your boundaries within the relationship, as long as you guys are respecting those boundaries, then there shouldn't be any issues. I think like the major problem is when it comes with deception, when there's deceptions and there's lies, and people are sneaking around and they're doing things outside of the relationship that their partner is unaware of. And potentially the person on the outside could also be unaware of. And to your point, for those that are stepping in as side pieces, knowing that they're, crossing a marriage, knowing that they're violating a relationship, the way that I always look at it is this: while I don't think that most spouses will leave their partners for their side pieces, in the event that you had a spouse that did leave their partner, you have to remember that as a side piece, you're always going to be a reminder of the relationship that did not work. And people typically grow resentment towards things that cause destruction of their relationship or their family circumstances. So at the end of the day, even if as the side piece you were to walk away with that person as the quote unquote prize, at the end of the day you may find yourself in the very seat that you've moved somebody else out of, and you may also end up with a partner who grows to resent you for all the things that they've actually lost in choosing to leave their spouse for you in the first place. So that's why I don't think that it's a safe bet. Karma is there and it will come back. I think what you put out into the world, you will, receive. And so at the end of the day, I think people need to be mindful of the choices that they're making and how they impact people. And I will add this, especially when children are involved. Especially when children are involved and you're causing a destruction in a relationship that involves separating with children. Yeah. What's your thoughts about, about that? Do you feel like kind of marriage is a space where you like, hey, no, I've chosen my partner, we solidified this? Or do you feel like these types of conversations are also common amongst partners, even when they've made that extra commitment? You find that these are topics that still may come up just because, like you said, you're human and you're still dealing with your natural desires?
Yeah, but just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, growing up, you always hear that how you get them is how you gonna lose them, right? So that side piece, like you said, you think you're the ultimate win, sis. But just be careful because you and tread on thin ice because you know what I'm saying. Just like how you got them is how you might one day lose them. You know what I mean? So and just think about how that would be, and like you were saying, when it's kids involved, I think that is just something that is so that's even more so selfish because if let me say this, if you're in a marriage or if you're in a partnership of some sort and you feel as though that's not working out with you, I think that's okay to communicate that as well because like you said, then you know what I'm saying, just revisiting the idea of talking about love languages and what's near and dear to you and what, because I don't believe that we should love people how we want to be loved, right? So I feel like my philosophy on it is I feel like you should love me the way that I want to be loved, because the way that I want to be loved, Tina, it might not be the way that you want to be loved, right? So if I tell, if say for instance, my wife loves space, right? But I love all of this affection, right? So she needs to be able to respect, like you said, those boundaries of me needing that. Because if you leave a little bit of wiggle room, sometimes somebody might get in there. You know what I'm saying? So, but if I know she loves her space, but I don't want to give you space, then guess what? I'm disrespecting the boundaries that she set for me. So that to me, little things like that, people say, oh, well, you can't blame me that you cheated. No, but did you respect their boundaries? You know what I'm saying? So at some times we do have to take accountability for the parts that we play because yes, it takes two to tango, but then also what could I have done differently? Did I respect their boundaries and what their love languages are? Did I actually adhere to that? Did I actually, because I signed the contract, but did I actually you know what I'm saying, do everything that's within that contract to keep that person happy? And so sometimes I feel as though, if that were to happen to me, I think I would. I think I've done enough self-reflection to take a step back and say, okay, what could I have done? Is it like not necessarily down on myself, like, oh, it's my fault, or woe is me. No, what could I have done? Is there anything that I could have done differently? You know what I'm saying? So, and then even to that, I think that forgiveness plays a big part in it too, because like you said, it's per relationship and every situation is different. Um, could I even forgive that you did that? And why didn't you feel safe enough to come talk to me about that? So, but I think that when kids are involved, I think that it's unfair because the kids don't get to say anything just because you felt some type of way fleshly. You know what I'm saying? So your kids, what does that kind of leave them? And so with that, I think that if it's a situation where you feel like you need to leave, not necessarily for a side piece, you have to dig deeper to feel like, okay, well, why am I feeling like this in the first place? Is this even a situation where I want to stay? Because if I stay, we do have kids involved. And if I do break up the home by cheating, it's not going to solve anything because guess what? Not only does your soon to be ex-wife or ex-husband is going to resent you, so are your kids. You get what I'm saying? Because I've seen it to where adult kids, they, you know what I'm saying, your parents have been married X amount of years, and then it's just like, dad cheated on you? You know what I mean? Like, not way back in the day when y'all was just dating, but just recently? Like, why? Why did it? So now, as an adult, you're just like, I don't even like you like that no more, dad. I love you, but why would you do that? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just a lot of layers to it. And like I even tell my kids, and I think this is fundamental, everything that you do, whether it be big or small, has an effect on somebody, whether it be good or bad. So anything that I'm doing and anything that I step out and do is not only going to reflect me, but it's going to reflect my loved one. It's going to reflect my family. So if I'm out there cheating and kicking it at the local bowling alley and going to shoot pool and karaoke and stuff, the first of all, that's hella disrespectful because my wife is only a couple blocks up the street. But secondly, you know what I'm saying? That's just, you real macho. You letting it be known that I'm King Kong around here and I run these streets. So if somebody sees you, then what? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people will play like, oh, I didn't do that. So how can you get out of it? You get what I'm saying? So that just puts everyone in a position of awkwardness. It puts your parents are now feeling some type of way about it, and it's just, and then if you decide to stay together, I forgive you, but my family might not. So it's just a lot of layers that goes along with making those decisions without your partner knowing about it, because again, it's gonna have an effect, big or small, good or bad, on somebody. You get what I'm saying? So it, just stay away from it. The little side piece. I know she look good. I know he's stacking, but stay away. Stay away. Just look at it. Don't do it. That's all I can say. Don't do it because it's not. It's gonna be for the detriment. Trust me. It's never gonna be for the good. It's always for the detriment.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like ultimately that desire is not worth what it costs you to satisfy it. It's just not. I mean, most of the time when you're in a relationship or a partnership with somebody, you've spent a lot of time building trust, building love, building friendship, building economics, foundation, family, all those different structures around you. You're pouring into that and you're giving of yourself, and it's something that you and your partner are investing in the relationship. So to have somebody come along and it just be for sort of a fleshly desire or a want, to tear all of that down or put all of that into jeopardy, just trying to chase something that's kind of a momentary satisfaction. I just don't think it's worth it. I've never been the type of person that has had a tremendous amount of outward desire. Um, and I've tried to understand when I've had a partner who has, because I've definitely been with, a partner that has expressed that they have a need for, more than what I can potentially offer or provide. And that's a deeper conversation that has to be had. But I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, you have to look at what it is that you have built and whether or not what you're going to risk that for is ultimately going to be worth what you're going to lose. And I'd be willing to bet that if you potentially ask almost anyone that same question, they would all say that what they have built is going to be a lot more valuable than what they stand to gain by stepping away or stepping out. And so, and if it's the thought that, well, I can do this and I won't get caught. I mean, how many times have we seen that work out, right? I mean, you can only get away with it for so long. It's only going to last for so long. And eventually someone's going to find out whether you're spotted, whether you have a partner that goes through your phone or your social media or your emails or whatever it is. It's bound to come out because everything that happens in the dark typically comes out into light at some point anyways. And so I just think it's a best practice not to do it. And if you are a person who wants to open up the relationship and entertain, hey, some side pieces, then maybe you ought to have a conversation with your partner about what that's going to look like. And if you're a single out there, then I say don't even jump into a relationship. Just enjoy your single life. You can frolic as you please, be as honest as you possibly can, and then you have the freedom to navigate that how you wish. But I just think when you're either betraying the trust of your partner or you're deceiving a person that you're dating, you're stepping into an area where it can only lead to disaster at some point, and I just don't think it's fair to do to anybody. So, I don't know. Those of you out there, in the comments, how do you feel about this? Have you been in spaces where you've been a person who has been, stepped out on? Have you experienced what it's like to experience some level of deception in your relationship? Or maybe you're on the flip side of it. Maybe you're a side piece that's out there that just wants to have fun, have excitement, doesn't want to be tied down to anything, and you're not really thinking about the ramifications that might have on the relationship or the person that's inside of the relationship. Let us know in the comments how you guys feel about this conversation, because I think we may have to come back to this at some point, because this is actually a deep space that we're getting into.
So Tina, I had a thought. I was thinking about how on social media you see these dudes in them gray sweats, because that ain't went out of style, right? If you know, right? You see him in these gray sweats, but he got a woman. Everybody who follows him on social media know he got a woman with that shirt on. He cooking them eggs in the kitchen, but you know what I'm saying? He got a woman, but she, you know what I'm saying? On her, you go to her social media and she's showing cheeks, she's showing, because that's the lifestyle, right? They might be content creators, I don't know, but do you think that people sliding into their DMs is okay? Or do you think that it's almost like their fault for allowing their partner to kind of put that out there, like even just telling your friend, like, oh girl, he put it down, or you know what I'm saying, your friends telling you what your partner can do. Is all of that taboo for you? Or do you think that it's something that plays a part in it? Or do you think that just has something to do with security and feeling secure in yourself? What say you, Tina?
Personally, I never live out my relationships on social media. I never have, and I don't know if I ever will. But it's cute. It's couple goals for sure. It's something I think about often. To answer your question, I am like, I err on the side of like, I'm a very flirtatious person. I don't like to be bound. I like to be kind of free to, to move as I wish. Even in a relationship, I do like to respect my relationship partner, but I'm just kind of a free-spirited person. So I like to kind of navigate as I will. And me being flirtatious is just a part of my personality. So I feel like my partner has got to just understand that that's what it is. So to answer your question, I mean, if my partner's out there and abs are flying and gray sweats are out there, I mean, I wouldn't love that. Women and men are out there, loving what my partner's got going on. But I do think that I'm a pretty confident person, and I really try to stay away from, even feeling like insecurities and things like that. So I feel like if my partner's good looking and my partner's got it out there and admirers are out there loving what he's putting out there on social media, I mean, it's not going to be the greatest feeling in the world, but I don't think that I would have an issue with the same way if I were to go on social media and I post a selfie or whatever and people comment, with men and women comment. My partner has to kind of be understanding of that. Now, again, I think it does come down to your boundaries, right? If you set those boundaries that y'all not going to be throwing, likes and heart emojis and whatever else, and you're not going to be responding to that, then you have to respect the boundaries that you and your partner are setting. But me personally, no, I'm like, girl, I know he got a six pack, girl. That's why I lay on it every night. You know what I mean? So for me, and those gray sweats, girl, yeah, I went to the mall and got those. So I personally, I don't have any issue with that. I say it's all fun as long as your partner is keeping it on social media and your partner is not transitioning over into those DMs, if you know what I mean. And they're not dropping heart eye emojis and, doing all of that extracurricular stuff, then I feel like it just comes with the territory, especially I think if you're content creators and you're seen in the public eye and you have public personas, then that's just something that's going to come along with that. But at the end of the day, I will bring it back to the fact that I think you need to respect your partner's boundaries, and whatever you and your partner decides is going to be best for the relationship. Ultimately, you need to make sure that you're out there respecting that. Do you feel like, it's we're married, it's us, it's couples goals, we're out here cute together, right? Or do you think it's playful, and fun if somebody just thinks you guys are beautiful and they're throwing heart, emojis and telling you guys look great or whatever? Or do you kind of feel like there should be a line when you're on social media when it comes to respecting your partner?
Well, first of all, girl, the heart emoji is there for a reason. Like it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I always thought that was weird when I hear people say like, oh, he went through and he liking your, I'm like, that's what it's kind of there for. So I don't know. I've never been the type to be like, oh, why such and such hearted your photo? Because it's there to heart. Like, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just to put that out there, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But I've never been one to, like, to me, it's always sometimes where you see those relationships where it's like, you always hear your sis talking or dude, and in real life, we see your man, but he not on social media with you. Well, you know what I mean? Like, why is he not on social media with you, sis? My guy, why aren't you showing that beautiful woman that you have that I just seen you with? You know what I mean? So again, those are boundaries that might be a thing, because to me that's kind of a deal breaker. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're together and we're solid and you're active on social media, and I say active like that because I'm married to someone who is a peruser. You know what I mean? She'll scroll all day, but you won't see her posting nothing. You get what I'm saying? We can go to the beach, we can go, and it looks like she's just been sitting here. You know what I mean? So, but if she was active on social media and never posted me, like, oh my God, like I'd feel away. You know what I mean? But as far as her liking people's photos and stuff, I don't, that doesn't bother me. You get what I'm saying? So even when we are out in public, people ask us all the time, are you siblings? And when they find out that we're married, they're just like, because people flirt with her, you know what I mean? She has a gorgeous smile, you know what I'm saying? She got hips for days. So they're going to look, you know what I'm saying? And here I am with my no hip having self. And I'm just like, and my chopped liver, but it's all in fun. You get what I'm saying? Because again, we don't trip. So I'm not gonna trip if you like that photo and stuff like that. But again, if you're active on social media and I don't see you posting me and stuff like that, and you got the gray sweats on or you got the booty cheeks hanging out, I might have a problem. But what about you? If you were in a solid relationship and you guys are couple goals in real life, would you have an issue with your man not really just showing you? He might have you on there, but nobody really knows in the social world who you are. Does that matter to you at all if you're being shown or not, if he's active on social media?
I think if I have a partner and I'm in a relationship, I would leave it up to my partner as to whether or not, they feel like they want to display it or not display it on social media. But I will say that I think once the relationship is really solidified, whether, we just decided that we know that we're it, this is what we're going to do, or we're getting married and we've decided to just lock everything down. I think at that point, I do feel that the representation should be there, because I feel like there's not going to be anything else after this. Like I feel like for me, if I lock it in with somebody and I decide that I'm going to build a life with somebody, that's all that I can envision. So I feel like I would share that part of myself with the world at that point. I would say that because relationships aren't as secure as marriages are, I don't necessarily think I obligate myself to it in terms of just a standard relationship. And I don't think I would obligate a man to do that either. I think it would just depend on if it's something that he's interested in doing. And I think that, like, if ultimately he wanted to reveal our relationship in the public eye, then I would try to support that. And if it's something that he felt like he wanted to keep private, I think I could respect that. It ultimately comes down to trust, I think. And you have to trust your partner. So I feel like a lot of that has to do with whether or not you think, your partner's got something, going on the side that they may be trying to hide from. That's what it comes down to for me. I'm impartial. I'm indifferent. I don't think I feel any particular way about it. I do think that once I decide, though, to get like married and, it's just me and my boo for the rest of our lives, then, you're going to have to, come on out. It's going to be couples go from here to infinity. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the only time that I probably would say that it matters for me.
Yeah, I feel you, because a lot of times that, people say, oh, this the one, or oh, this is, what I'm saying, this is my forever person. So that kind of speaks to what you were saying. Is like, okay, how many the ones are you going to have? So yeah, you got to kind of pick your battles and who you're going to post, because just dating you for a couple of months is not, should I post you on social media? I don't know. So I kind of feel you on that. Yeah.
You made great points on both sides of it. I don't know. The jury's still out on that. I'll just say that. Thank you guys for watching the latest episode of Breaking Black Podcast. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and also follow us on Spotify at Breaking Black Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.